Another Sunday news dump for Bill Guerin as Brandon Duhaime has re-signed with the Wild. He is back for another season. We'll talk about his contract, the latest on Filip Gustavsson, and more on today's episode of Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. If this is your first time tuning into Locked On Wild, make sure you take the time to subscribe and follow us on YouTube so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the rest of the offseason. If you're one of the everydayers who joins us on an everyday basis, we're glad to have you back. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we break down the Brandon Duhaime one-year contract, avoiding arbitration. And so it looks as though the Wild will avoid arbitration with at least one player. We'll discuss the latest on Filip Gustavsson as well. And if Alex and I were to sign contracts ourselves, what's our no-trade list looking like? We'll talk about that today as well. My name is Seth Topal. As mentioned, Alex Micheletti joining us here. And again, we get another Sunday breaking news to digest here today. Brandon Duhaime signing a one-year, $1.1 million extension to avoid arbitration, to stay with the Minnesota Wild. And so the official podcast of Brandon Duhaime, the fan club of Brandon Duhaime, gets to hang around for another year as well. I love the deal, Alex. What do you think about Duhaime's new contract?
Yeah, it's a good, bet on himself. If it doesn't work out here, then he gets to be a UFA at next summer. So yeah, it works out for both parties. The quote was interesting from him too, that he said that he had heard that arbitration was a nightmare and he was glad to avoid that. So yeah, it works out for both sides and keeps a good relationship because like I just mentioned, to go into arbitration can sometimes make the player, really upset with the team when they're trying to, chide them from getting the money that they think they deserve. And so, yeah, I'm glad that he gets to avoid that. And it, he seems to really love it here in Minnesota. And that I mentioned it on Twitter too. It's that fourth line will be a pain with Dewar centering him and Pat Maroon. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see how they gel together.
It is a good deal, I think, for Duhaime. It's about a $400,000 raise.
Mm-hmm.
He has done the same thing that everybody else has done this offseason, it seems like, just taking those one-year deals, because next year you have the salary cap going up again and getting back on that track. So the opportunity for him to show that the last couple of seasons, so 2 years ago, played in 80 games, just hit everything that moved. This last year, he battled injuries at points throughout the season. So gets an opportunity to try to get back to that form of 2 years ago. Not to say that he didn't play well this year, because we talked at length all season about Duhaime's ability to just fit on seemingly every line throughout the lineup. And so that versatility is important. He is a player that I think made us more frustrated about Jordan Greenway, because just infinitely more physical while not being anywhere close to as big as Greenway was. And so Duhaime brings all this stuff to the table. If he has a good season, he has the opportunity to sign a longer deal for a little more money even with the Wild in the offseason. And yeah, you hit it right on the head. I'm fascinated to see how this dynamic on the fourth line is going to work, because you've got the speed of Dewar, you've got the speed of Duhaime, you've got the physicality of Duhaime, you've got Pat Maroon, who is going to bring the physicality and is going to it's going to be fascinating to see how this all melds together to create a fourth line that Dean Evason does not hesitate to use. And I would imagine with Pat Maroon now being part of this group, that he is going to lean on those guys more.
And the good thing to have Pat Maroon on the line too is Duhaime can avoid fighting. I think they were really worried about concussions with him, and Pat Maroon has the willingness to actually drop him compared to Ryan Reeves, who for whatever reason didn't seem to want to drop him, even though that was one of the reasons that he was signed for the Wild. So yeah, I think that's huge for him. And with Duhaime too, he's the anti Jordan Greenway. You don't have to worry about work ethic with him. He is not going to take nights off. He's going to run around like a Tasmanian devil out there, and I think he's going to turn into a Bash brother out there with with Pat Maroon, and I think the chemistry is really going to build with those guys. And I think with Duhaime too, something I'm excited for him is just his growth with the penalty kill with him and Dewar. I think they're going to have very large roles when it comes to that. They aren't power play guys, but it's a huge problem that the Wild have had is their penalty kill, and I think those two are definitely gonna bring it this upcoming season.
Yeah, the speed plays just about everywhere that he has been in the lineup. I mean, you look at players throughout the year getting injured, played on the second line, played on the third line, played on the fourth line, and stepping in, as Joe Smith noted in his latest piece for The Athletic, stepping in potentially for Mason Shaw, who was a pivotal point of the penalty kill for the Wild all season. So he's going to get opportunities. And you would imagine if there is an injury to anybody on the third line, that he'll get bumped up to fill that spot as well. So there's a great potential for a good year for Brandon Duhaime. And as the official president of the Brandon Duhaime fan club, could not be happier to be able to carry that honor once again here for the 2023-2024 season. So well done all around. Avoided arbitration. I didn't really ever think that it was going to go that route, because we had heard throughout the offseason that the Duhaime contract was essentially just waiting for some clarity on what's going on with Gustafsson. And so once the arbitration dates were set and Duhaime's went first, I felt like it was going to be relatively quick before that happened. I didn't really see any scenario in which Duhaime was going to arbitration. It's the other one that now we have to kind of worry about.
Yeah, it's that is going to be fascinating. You have some other big name goalies getting contracts that I'm sure Gus's agent, is saying, hey, Gus deserves to get paid. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating. You were saying it forever all the summer that you thought it was going to get done. And so, you mentioned that, he could, Duhaime could fit on other lines. This is huge opportunity for him too, because Marcus Foligno, it's his last year of his deal. And, he and Foligno are very similar players, and he could work his way up to a third line role. And, I think that that's what he's, looking to try to get to for sure.
Yeah. And I have seen pointed out, let's see some more goals. Well, let's see some more goals from everybody on the team. The thing that I like is that Duhaime is about a 1.6 hits per game player. That's what he was at this past season. He was well over 2 hits per game 2 years ago when he played 80 games. So keep bringing that physicality, bring that spark off the bench that seems to ignite this team, and everything should be smooth sailing. Now, we transition from the nice, easy maneuvering through the waves with your boat of choice. Now we're going to go into a little choppier waters, because Filip Gustavsson's arbitration date is drawing ever closer. And as Joe Smith mentioned in The Athletic, his latest piece, there has really been no headway in this situation. So we'll just kind of reset where Gustafsson's at with his situation as well as we continue today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Take your first swing at betting on Major League Baseball on FanDuel, and you can get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets, up to $200. Yeah, you heard me right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think is going to hit the first home run. Hopefully, if you were paying attention yesterday, you had Alex Kirill. He had a great day for the Twins against Oakland and hopes to continue that as well. The Twins, as I mentioned before, the easiest schedule down the stretch in Major League Baseball. So keep that in mind if you're looking to place a bet on your favorite Minnesota baseball team. It's all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, best part, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on Major League Baseball than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 back in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Continuing today's episode of Locked On Wild, once again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. For the everydayers, we will continue to dive into some of our ongoing offseason series. We're going to do another rank 'em for you tomorrow as we will take a look at the best centers in Minnesota Wild history. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. Plus, then we will also have another redraft deep dive for you here this week. Continuing today's episode, though, with Alex Micheletti, let's talk Filip Gustavsson. Mum's the word for Gustafsson, as there really hasn't been any headway in his situation, although it does seem pretty clear cut that one side is looking for a 1-year deal, the other side's looking for a 3-year deal, and the salaries, as Joe Smith notes, are pretty close, which I think now would hopefully mean that we start to see some headway. Smith kind of goes with the $3.2 million range if it's a 1-year deal, $3.4 million if it's a 3-year deal, but we just have not heard anything as to steam picking up on these negotiations, which leads you to believe that arbitration may indeed be the route that this goes.
Yeah, and then with the arbitration, probably another 1-year deal, and so. Yeah, it's a really conundrum because you have Jesper in the wings waiting to cook one more year in Iowa. So it's like, do you want to give him 3 years, even though you're hoping that Jesper takes that 1A spot, and eventually are going to have to pay him a decent sized contract too. And so yeah, it's just it's very fascinating for sure.
I continue to go with I think, preferred route for the Wild is 3 years, because then you get an opportunity to bring Wallstedt along without having to, fully rely on him, because Marc-Andre Fleury's not coming back after this season. He's done.
No.
Well, also that money comes off the books.
Mm-hmm.
And so then let's assume that the expectations that we have for Wallstedt end up playing true, and he is the guy. Then you don't really need 2 of those types of goalies. It's a nice luxury to have, but it's not a necessity. And so then at that case, if Wallstedt comes up, he looks great, and you're confident that he is going to be the one that we hoped he would be, then you have the opportunity to trade Gustafsson with some term left to a team that, I don't know, the San Jose Sharks have had like 50 goalies in the last 6 years, and they're still trying to find somebody. So you do something like that, you have the opportunity to trade him. Gustafsson and company, I think, want the 1-year deal so that then they can just get themselves in line with everything else that's going on this offseason, all these players taking 1-year deals, so that then once the salary cap goes up, then he can get more money next year. So it's pretty clear where the battle lines have been drawn. And so I am intrigued, because let's say the arbitrator, let's say the arbitrator splits this, because let's just assume that it's that thin of a difference, 3.4, 3.2. Let's say the arbitrator splits at 3.3. The Wild then have the option to select 1 or a 2-year deal. Do they go 2 at that case, just to try to get him locked into somewhat of a long-term deal?
Yeah, I think they would hope to get 2, just because, like you said, you hope that Jespers is ready to go, but he's still very, very young, and you don't see too many goalies his age have a full-time role as a backup or as the main guy. We've seen for example, Carter Hart. He's had such a roller coaster start of his young career, and maybe he was rushed too much, and so you take a look at Spencer Knight as well, who's had some struggles at the NHL level, and the thing that people don't realize too, it's more of a mental thing that they have to get used to in being the man and the travel, and with goalies, it's like NFL quarterbacks. The spotlight is always on you, and if you start to struggle, it can tear away at you mentally, and that is really tough. And so you kind of just have to get used to it and learn from a veteran, and that's the hope for Jesper for sure.
Yeah, and it is I think of the Wild's benefit to just have a guy like Gustafsson around while Wallstedt is getting going, because it's not like Gustafsson was, really, really good, then kind of slumped. He was like upper tier for the entire season, save maybe 1 or 2 starts, the blip, as I call it, at the beginning of the season. Beyond that, he was amazingly consistent all season long. When this team decided that they were not going to try to score any goals, he just continued to be amazing during that. And so it's a season in which he was really, really good, and he was really consistently good too, which is another part that will factor into how this ends up playing out.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, he kept the Wild in so many different games. It was just incredible. And, he had a really good relationship with Marc-Andre Fleury too, still does. And so there's no really, fight, between the two, or, dealing with an agent that's angry about playing time. He got the playing time that he deserved. This wasn't a Cam Talbot type situation where the agent is coming up to Bill Guerin at the draft and demanding all sorts of increase in pay and just nonsense at a time that doesn't need to be negotiating for sure.
That Guerin quote needed to be put on a T-shirt from the draft floor.
Yes, just crazy.
Like, I don't have to do bleep. Like, Talbot's going to be on this team, and that's just the way it goes. Like, that would have been just
an all-time Wild moment for sure.
Yeah, just
in the lore.
Quotes with a stern look from Guerin just off into the background. But it's something that, of course, like happened with the Duhaime signing, that we're just going to be in wait for. It one way or the other, this will be solved on or before August 4th. So we'll lie in wait, and when it does inevitably happen, we'll of course have reaction for you.
Hopefully on a Sunday again.
Yeah, I'm really liking the float something Sunday afternoon, so we have a little time to digest it and then fire it off for first thing Monday. I'm really liking, and it leads me to believe that Bill Guerin is tuning in
And
to line that.
You have to laugh too, so get some humor too with them doing this with when Russo is in Italy. So the first person that we saw break it was Elliot Friedman, and that had to eat at Mike, and Guerin for sure probably knew that he was in Italy just to do it to him.
Just living it up and checking out all the best of wine country.
Yes, good stuff.
I'm very jealous, but we'll make that happen at some point. We're gonna finish today because I was just scrolling through, now that I'm not rate limited anymore. Was just scrolling through Twitter and had just the most intriguing tweet pop up in my feed. And so we'll discuss no trade lists in detail when we finish today's episode of Locked On Wild after this. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, thank you for tuning in and making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. For the everydayers, once again, make sure you tune in as we move through the rest of the week. We will do another draft deep dive. We will also be taking a look at the top centers in Minnesota Wild history. Buckle up for that one. That should be an exciting way to get your Tuesday going for you. Now, we are, as a network, transitioning kind of into off-season mode now in the NHL. So a lot of shows going to 3 episodes per week. I'm not sure exactly at what point we will do that. We may not. I don't think we will, but it's an option that may come up. I don't have my entire rest of my summer planned out yet, but we'll just go with that as it happens. Now, I'm trying to frantically find it, but the gist of the tweet that I saw was, if you signed a free agent contract, what would be the 5 teams that you would put on your no trade list if you had the option to block trades to 5 NHL franchises? Which teams would you pick? Now, there are a couple of ways to look at this. It can be destinations, or it can be current state of the team. And so let's just establish, before we get too far into this, which one do we value more? Is it current state of the team, or just, are there some spots, as you were thinking about this, Alex, that you're just like, I don't care if they're a cup favorite, I'm not going to go here regardless?
Yeah, I found that tweet, and it kind of blew up when I put out my list. I factored weather, I factored taxes into things. With some of the states in the NHL universe where there's no state income tax. That's a huge deal now with players. And I also factored in the state of the team as well. So it kind of, it was a mixture for me. And I have my top 5 that I can read off to you.
Yeah, fire it up. It was Tom Franklin that had the tweet. I just found it. And so this was just a fascinating exercise. Yeah, I think so. If you've got yours handy,
yes,
fire it up.
All right. So with number 1, I put Winnipeg Jets. It's just craziness right now. I'm not a big Rick Bowness guy either, and so I did factor in coaches into this as well, and just weather wise, it just miserable there in the winter time, and it's a smaller rink, and so Winnipeg Jets, and just chaos with their team right now. Just the vibes are not good in Winnipeg. Number 2, I did Columbus Blue Jackets. There was I did get chirped from Columbus people, but Mike Babcock, I don't like the guy at all. Especially what he did to Mike Modano, and just how he treated Mitch Marner in Toronto. I thought we were past coaches like this in the league, but apparently not. It's still the old boys club. I don't see it working out really well for Columbus, which is too bad because Johnny Gaudreau, he escaped Sutter and then gets an even more grouchy old guy in Mike Babcock. It's just unfortunate for him. Same thing with Patrick Laine. It's just really unfortunate because these are two guys that are superstars in the league. I think they are so fun to watch, and hopefully they don't get the wrath of Mike Babcock. Because all eyes will be on him and and how he coaches, and see if he's learned from his past.
He's had what, 5 years off?
It's and it ended horribly with Toronto. So it's just, I can't believe that's who they thought was their number one candidate. Wow. Unreal. Number 3 for me, Ottawa Senators. It's just, there's chaos there. They just traded Alex DeBrincat, and I don't know where this team is headed. It's they have a legitimate superstar in Tkachuk, but I don't know if I trust the coaching there. They're trying to sell the team, and they've had all sorts of issues there. The arena is in the middle of nowhere. It's it's just taxes again with Canada. It's it's a franchise that you really want to root for, but they should be the Ottawa Chaos. I don't trust the direction that this team is headed right now. They should be so much better, but I don't get it. It's a really unfortunate because you love Brady Tkachuk so much, and Josh Norris. They Thomas Chabot. They do have some really nice young pieces, but chaos and coaching I don't trust either. So it's unfortunate. Number 4, another coach that is it's mind-boggling. Philadelphia Flyers, John Tortorella. It's another team that's going through a major rebuild. Thanks Chuck Fletcher and Brent Flair, who we've had here in Minnesota. Just so many bad moves made, and they just got rid of Tony DeAngelo. And they had Kevin Hayes that was just a mistake of a contract by Chuck Fletcher, and Daniel Briere's trying to start a complete rebuild over
some work to do.
Some major work to do. It's a proud franchise that should be a lot better, but just another team that could be Chaos Junior. So that was my 4th. And number 5, Calgary Flames. Just starting over too. Another rebuild. They made some moves that did not work in year 1. And that's probably had to do with coaching too. Jonathan Huberdeau was completely lost in the Sutter system. Same thing with Nazem Kadri, and Markstrom turned into a complete, I don't know. He just turtled with his play. It was really unfortunate because, he's a heck of a goaltender. I don't know if he just lost confidence in himself, but losing Gaudreau, losing Tkachuk, it was devastating for that team. Really unfortunate. Hopefully they can bounce back, but it's a team that's in kind of a rebuild mode. New GM, new coach. We'll see if Markstrom can bounce back. Like I mentioned earlier in the episode, the spotlight is always on the goaltending, and so we'll see if Markstrom can turn around, because he's got a lot of money left on that deal. So we'll see. If Conroy can get things turned around there.
It's a very intriguing list, and I am happy to report that I have a lot of different names on the list.
Okay, I like it.
Oh, this is going to be good. I'll start from bottom to top.
Okay.
And they're not super in order, but I'll just kind of try to separate them out. Number 5 for me is Arizona. I don't want to go to Arizona and then potentially end up in another city after they would get relocated. So I just would like to see that play out before I end up making any decisions as to how that's going to go. So Arizona is 5 on my list. Number 4 on my list is San Jose, because again, still trying to get that goalie situation figured out, and I can promise you I will not be able to help in that regard. So San Jose is 4 on my list. And then beyond that, I am also going to put Philly on my list, because again, that's a situation. There's a lot of work that needs to be done to try to get that figured out. So we're going Philly 3. Number 2, Chicago. There would be no scenario in which I would be able to go to a team that is as bitter of a rival as Chicago is, even though they've been down. Not going there. And number 1, St. Louis, because same. So neither one. It's healthy to have teams that you just don't respect, but don't like, because they are rivals of the team that you have been following your entire life.
Right.
And so those battle lines are not going to get crossed. And so sorry to all of Zach's buddies down at Mizzou. I'm not crossing that line to join the St. Louis Blues.
I'm not trying to play with Jordan Bennington either.
Also that. So there you have it. Let us know in the comments what your 5 teams are, your 5-team no trade list, and we'll see if we can come to some sort of an agreement. Maybe we'll get a bunch of people that will have 1 or 2 of the same teams on the list.
I can't wait to see the comments.
There are only a handful of teams that exist, and so there are going to be some overlap. So let's see what we get in the comments. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to today's episode. If this is your first time tuning into Locked On Wild, make sure once again that you follow us on YouTube and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. If you are an everydayer, we are glad to have you along, and we hope to see you again on tomorrow's episode. Either way, make sure that you keep an eye out for new content from Locked On Wild. We have new episodes every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.